Today we're going to be talking about Archimedes. As you can see, he's a very handsome gentleman. And now, let's learn a little bit about him. He was born on 2087 in BC in Syracuse, Italy. He was a mathematician, physicist, astronomer, and inventor. The influence on Archimedes. Ancient Greeks were one of the biggest and first people to recognize science as a discipline to pursue. Since Archimedes was born into Greek scientific culture, he felt strong influence on him. He felt the need to follow the Greeks' path as well. What is he famous for, you ask? He did many things, but he's mainly famous for 4 discoveries: center of gravity discovery, compound pulley, hydraulic screw, King's crown mystery. Now let's talk a little bit about center of gravity. Definition of center of gravity is a point where the entire weight of an object is considered as concentrated. At this point, the object stays in a stable position. For example, let's take a look at this balance beam. If you put a cube on one end of the balance beam, the scale is no longer parallel to the ground, because in order for it to balance to occur, weight has to be even on both sides. In this case, weight is just on one side, causing the scale not to be balanced. In this case, with the cube cats, weight on both ends of the scale are even, therefore you achieve perfect balance. Center of gravity does not necessarily have to have the same length on both sides, however. Now here's what I mean. Let's take a look at this number 2 pencil. Keep in mind, the pencil has more weight on the eraser end. If you try to balance this pencil on your finger at the midpoint of the pencil will not balance because weight is not even on both sides. In this example, we placed the pencil length differently on our finger, with more length on the left side of the pencil. This allows for perfect balance because weight is now even on both sides. Why is center of gravity important, you ask? Well, you see, because we can use the knowledge of center of gravity for building buildings, tight-roping, and setting satellites into orbit. The compound pulley, one of Archimedes' most famous inventions. The compound pulley is basically a combination of pulleys which is used to move very large and heavy objects. Archimedes used a system of compound pulleys to once move a large merchant ship on dry land. That's pretty impressive. The hydraulic screw. The screw uses a combination of 2 common simple machines, the inclined plane and cylinder. The screw is generally used to transport material. An irrigation system is a great example of this mechanism. This is an example of a picture of a hydraulic screw, where you twist the lever on the top to transport water from the bottom up through the nozzle at the top. This has a good use for farming because you would place the screw over a reservoir where the screw spins and water is poured over the length of the screw to the land of the agricultural farming land.
Now let's talk about King's crown mystery. During Archimedes' era, there was a king named Hiera II. One day, the king gave gold to the craftsman to make him a crown. After the crown was returned to the king, he found out that the weight of the crown is equal to the amount of pure gold that king initially gave to the craftsman. But the king got suspicious, because he thought that the craftsman had stolen some of the gold and kept himself, replacing it with silver when making the crown. So the king asked Archimedes for help. Archimedes thought a lot about this. Archimedes knows that the density of the gold is higher than the density of the silver. So all he has to do is to find the density of the crown, and if it is lower than what is expected, the crown isn't made of pure gold. But there was one problem. Density equals mass divided by volume. Archimedes can find the mass of the crown but couldn't find the volume of the crown. Because it is easy to find the volume of a regular shape like this cube. You just multiply length times width times height. But for this, you can't use normal math equation to find the volume because it's in irregular shape. Then one day he found the solution when he was taking a bath. After he gets into the bathtub, his body pushes the water away. The more he went into the bathtub, the more water his body pushes away. Then he realized that to find the volume of his body, He has to calculate how much the water rose from its initial position. Because of his great discovery, he ran around the street shouting, "Eureka," which means "I found it." Then Archimedes placed the crown inside the water to calculate its volume, which then used to find its density. The density of the crown is lower than what is expected, and therefore Archimedes found that the crown isn't made of pure gold, and craftsman has kept some gold for himself. Archimedes was praised by king and